Speech off.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another session of Inclusive Horizons, where today I'm gonna be talking all things to do with diversity and inclusion. Now, I have this question for you, and it's gonna it's gonna take a little bit of time because it needs a little bit of digestion and it needs there's actually a lot of debate around it, but I'll try my best to summarize it for you in few minutes. Is inclusion a social or business case? So many books been written about this, and actually I did my thesis on diversity and inclusion, my master thesis 10 years ago about this subject. And obviously at that time diversity inclusion was not as prominent as now. The simple answer to this, in my opinion, it's both. Now we're thinking, okay, what's new about this? What's new about this is the latest realization that more and more companies now around the world are having actually dedicated function of diversity and inclusion. I remember 5 years ago I was trying to apply for a role of diversity inclusion in the UAE, and it wasn't as such. Maybe if it's like a really major multinational company and then they wanted to expand that in this region, but most like predominantly not. More companies now having a function of diversity inclusion because of the realization that society and business is inseparable. Let me repeat that. Society and business is inseparable. And anybody who thinks differently is kidding themselves. And they know they're kidding themselves. I'll give you a classical example of why that is the case. About 15 years ago, let's say even, would you see any major company having a Facebook account or Twitter account or even now Instagram account? No, you wouldn't. And if you ask the brand team of those companies why wouldn't, it's like, why? I mean, it's a social platform. We are a corporate. We are serious. We are these platforms just for people wasting their time to connect and talk and chit chat. What happened is that the brand departments have seen the power of these platforms. They've seen that people create a meaningful conversation in these platforms. Not that I'm advertising for those companies, but any social platform. And then they suddenly jumped on the bandwagon and they said, oh yes, we need to have a social accounts. And now we have dedicated social media teams, and that comes mainly under the branding team. Now, the point about this, ask any expert on organizational development, and what they call it now, organizational capability, the team within HR. They will tell you organizations and businesses is nothing other than just an expansion of the society itself. It's another arena where the society comes together. People before we used to be forced to work just to make an income. These days a lot of people work as a choice. Of course we all still need the money, but they're making a choice of who to work for, right? And that means that people will going to bring themselves fully. Now, how we make sure that this diversity inclusion translates into a business case is by first allowing the first stage of the societal integration to happen within the organization, meaning that we create the awareness, meaning that we make it fun, we make it engaging, we create policies that protect people who obviously otherwise wouldn't be, and then we move into the diversity of thoughts, which is ultimately what we want. We don't want diversity to be seen only as something that concerns the minorities, because then that will obviously create a backlash to everybody else. To the average white male will say, why am I targeted? And we don't want to target anybody. We want everybody to be included. So whether you are white male or young black or with disability or women or whatever you happen to be, you will be thinking differently than the person next to you, unless of course if you both of you happen to have identical the same thing. Teams that are diverse have been proving through so many researches that they outperform the homogeneous team. The problem with the team that are identical the same or have no way to express the diversity is that they will just follow the team leader blindly. And how can that be a good thing? The first decision will be taken, no consideration for anything else. So what diversity in its sense, in essence, does, it allows for the different voices to be heard, for that different consideration to be taken into account. And this where ultimately diversity comes to fruition. Diversity in itself, as we all know, is not good enough. What is needed is inclusion. When people ask me what's the difference between the two, I say diversity is like I'm inviting all of you for a conference, and I've ticked the box. I've got everybody invited, and I can show the rainbow picture with everybody different looking there. But then I haven't given anybody a chance to take the microphone and speak or contribute through chat box or conversation or whatever it is. So inclusion is when I allow people's voices to be heard. It doesn't mean I have to act on them. It doesn't have to mean I cannot take on everybody's input, but at least I've heard everybody and I've given everybody a fair chance to be heard. There's so many reports from McKinsey that you can check for yourselves, shows that the actual statistics of how these things translate into a business case, that I really would not have the time to go through it one by one. Now, what do I want to say to end this? Two things. First of all, within this different strands of diversity, still the voice of people with disability or the disability representation is, I would say, largely missing. But that's a conversation for another time, and we will talk about this, and this will lead to the second point, which is the last one. In order for companies to be more serious about diversity and inclusion, which shows the link between society and business, something major has to happen. Something major has to give away. Even the US, which you see as the most sort of advanced country when it comes to the history of developing diversity and inclusion, and where all these many things come from, we've seen last year what happened with the BLM movement and the death of Floyd. And it sparked the conversation again. It created the momentum again that was there, right? Now, how can we do this in our organizations? A crisis must happen, and I really mean this. Crisis is a good thing. We look at the COVID-19. It shifted the needle towards so many things that was missing before. So many things. And that only can be a good thing. If we don't want to go down the route of crisis, or we don't want to wait for crisis to happen, and nobody of course wants, if you are serious about diversity and inclusion, make sure that at least 5%, just to start with, of the KPIs of every manager, senior manager, director and CEO is part of the KPIs. Diversity inclusion has to be part of the KPIs of those individuals. If it's not, then what's going to happen? Same old, same old. Every CEO, every senior manager is just going to look for a short term to prove himself or herself and then move on to the next company. And that cannot continue. If you like what you heard, please share, subscribe, comment, and I will welcome any feedback as well along the way. You take care, look after yourself. Bye bye.
Speech on. Stop recording video. Button.